Right after the evacuation of the British Expeditionary Force from Dunkirk, it became clear to army planners and government that passive defence was doomed to failure. In early June 1940, Lieutenant Colonel Dudley Clarke, a military assistant of Chief of the General Staff, came up with the idea to form a unit capable of small amphibious raids on the coast of occupied Europe. He gave them the name Commandos, after the Boer commandos who served as a role model. The Commandos become the main force of British active defence. The hit-and-run raids of the Commandos were aimed at disrupting the German defences along the Atlantic coast, in order to tie up as many German troops as possible in the defensive role. The organisation of these raids was the task of Combined Operations Headquarters, a special department of the War Office, organised in July 1940. The Combined Operations Headquarters organised offensive raids on mainland Europe by using a combined naval and army forces. Encouraged by a series of successful raids in Norway and France, in 1942, a Combined Operations Headquarters started to plan larger-scale raids along the French coast. In 1942, the situation on the front did not go in favor of the Allies. On the Eastern Front, Operation Barbarossa was halted, and the Soviet government put intense pressure on the Western Allies to open a second front in France as soon as possible. In North Africa, Rommel advanced through Libya. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States had yet to organize an army for the war. Something had to be done to tie the German divisions along the Atlantic coast, so that they could not be redeployed elsewhere. The first such larger-scale raid, the greatest raid of them all, on the port of Saint-Nazaire on the 28th of March 1942, in France, although with great losses, achieved success. The time had come for the combined operations to organize and conduct the largest operation so far. In early March 1942, combined operations, under the command of Commodore Lord Louis Mountbatten, began to plan an operation with the goal to capture a port in France. Various ports along the French coast were considered as targets. Of these ports, the city of Dieppe proved to be the most favorable destination for the raid. Dieppe was almost the perfect target. A relatively small city, with a port, and most importantly, it was close enough and well within the range of the RAF's fighter aircraft. Two separate plans were prepared. The first plan proposed two amphibious landings outside the town, which will later be captured by the pincer movement from the flanks. The second plan proposed frontal assault on the town itself, with support landings on both flanks. After careful review, the second plan was adopted. In addition to tying German divisions, the purpose of the attack was to test the defense of the French coast, to gain experience of large-scale amphibious landing, and to show support for the Soviet Union. The operation was given a code name Rutter. According to intelligence reports, the Dieppe was defended by a battalion-sized unit, with the support of the artillery batteries located on both sides of the town. The plan proposed the use of airborne and glider infantry. The mission of airborne and glider infantry was to carry out airborne assault and destroy coastal artillery batteries on both sides of Dieppe before the main invasion force reaches the coast. Later they would connect with the main force and evacuate to Britain with the rest of them, after all tasks are completed. The large scope of operation indicated that commando forces alone were not sufficient for the operation. Regular infantry units were also needed for the assault. Lieutenant General Bernard Montgomery, the commander of Southeastern Command, who was also included in the planning of Operation Rutter, proposed the use of Canadian infantry units, already located in southeastern England, as the main force for the attack. The two brigades of the 2nd Canadian Infantry Division were chosen for the operation. Canadian forces were in England from December 1939. They were an all-volunteer force, eager for the action. Canadian Army commanders also put pressure on General Montgomery to send them in action as soon as possible. Now they will get their chance. With Canadian infantry, commandos, and airborne troops, a 6,000-strong assault force began their preparation. The Royal Air Force was responsible for the close air support and fighter protection. For this purpose, the RAF prepared 67 squadrons for the attack, a force larger than one committed in the Battle of Britain. The RAF commanders saw this as the opportunity to challenge Luftwaffe in open battle. The task of the Royal Navy was the transport of the troops and close artillery support. However, unlike the RAF, the Navy commanders were not so eager to send capital ships into the action, because of the fear of Luftwaffe air attacks. Since the planners expected light defense, they could rely on the support of only a few Hunt-class destroyers. Operation Rutter was planned to take place between 4th and 8th of July 1942. Troops were assembled in the boarding area during the first days of July. Due to bad weather conditions, Operation Rutter was postponed. On July 7th, Luftwaffe bombers attacked ships near assembly area. Fearing that element of surprise is lost, Operation Rutter was eventually cancelled completely. Troops assembled for the attack disembarked their ships and went back to their bases. Right after the Operation Rutter was cancelled, Lord Mountbatten ordered his staff to organize a new raid on Dieppe, set for the next suitable day. General Montgomery, on the other hand, thought that the operation was compromised. Troops already briefed on the mission objectives were now scattered all over southern England. He was worried that the German spies would find out about the operation, and that element of surprise will be lost. However, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill insisted to proceed with the new mission. A new plan was created, with the new code name, Operation Jubilee. The main difference between Operation Rutter and Operation Jubilee was the exclusion of airborne troops, to be less dependable to weather conditions. According to a new plan, instead of the airborne infantry, coastal batteries will be neutralized by commandos, deployed on shore by landing crafts. The landings were planned on 6 beaches, 4 in front of the town itself, and 2 to the eastern and western side of the Dieppe. From east to west, the beaches were codenamed Yellow, Blue, Red, White, Green, and Orange. The targets for commandos would be Coastal Battery near Berneville, to the east of Dieppe, and the Coastal Battery near Varennes-Geville to the west. Commandos were supposed to perform a pincer movement from the flanks. For that reason Yellow and Orange beaches were split in 2. A 50 United States Army Rangers, from the 1st Ranger Battalion, would also take part in the raid, assigned to various units, mostly to No. 4 Commando. They would land on Orange beaches, and gather a precious combat experience. The objective of the Royal Regiment of Canada was to land on Blue Beach, and conduct a flanking attack to the east of Dieppe at the town of Puis. On the western flank, the South Saskatchewan Regiment, and the Queen's Own Cameron Highlanders of Canada, would land on Green Beach and attack Pourville, to destroy radar station nearby. The South Saskatchewan Regiment task was to secure Bridgehead, and the Queen's Own Cameron Highlanders of Canada would land 30 minutes later, to proceed inland and secure airfield at Aruban, and if time permitted, the German division headquarters located near Aix-la-Bataille. The main assault of the 4th Canadian Infantry Brigade, in the centre, would be done by 2 battalions, Essex Scottish, on the Red Beach, and Royal Hamilton Light Infantry, on the White Beach. The attack in the centre would be supported by the 14th Canadian Tank Regiment, equipped with brand new Churchill tanks. The main objective of the 4th Canadian Infantry Brigade was to seize and hold the town until engineer and demolition units destroy port installation, cut telephone lines, and complete other tasks. According to the plan, the attacking force was to be evacuated by the ships, and transport back to England, after all objectives are completed. To avoid civilian casualties, and to maintain the element of surprise, the mass aerial and naval bombardment was not a part of the plan. The RAF was to provide close air support and fighter cover over the area. The 8 Navy destroyers were to provide protection of troop transport, and artillery support from the sea. The attack was to begin at the dawn. The flank attacks by the commandos were to go first at 4:50 am, and the main assault was scheduled for 5:20 am. The area around the Dieppe was defended by 2 battalions from 571st Regiment, of 302nd Infantry Division, consisted of just 1,500 men, supported with few artillery batteries. They were spread from the Varine-Jevel in the west to Berneville in the east. The coast was protected by the barbed wire obstacles, minefields, and machine gun emplacements, located on the steep cliffs overlooking the beach. The coastal gun batteries were manned by naval detachments, and anti-aircraft batteries in the area were manned by the Luftwaffe personnel. Increased radio traffic, before Operation Rutter, and later during preparation for Operation Jubilee, was detected. The Germans realized that something unusual was happening. The 302nd Infantry Division was on high alert. On the evening of the 18th of August 1942, a fleet consisted of 237 ships and landing crafts, set sail from various ports in southern England. On board these ships were more than 6,000 assault troops, and many more Navy sailors, RAF forward observers, overall, more than 10,000 men altogether. Operation Jubilee was on the way.